So over the past 20 years, skiing has become a relatively safe sport due to improvements in ski equipment. Okay, so we're saying we've gotten better ski equipment, so skiing has gotten safer. There has been a 50% drop in the number of ski injuries over the last 20 years. So whenever we see a percent, we want to ask ourselves percent of what? We don't know what that total number is yet, do we? We just know
No.
it's a 50% drop. So if it was 10, that means that there's now 5 in the last 20 years. Or if there was 100, that means there's now 50. Big difference, right?
Yes.
Clearly, however, there have not been decreases in the number of injuries in all categories, as statistical data readily shows. For although broken legs and ankle injuries have decreased by an astounding 90%, so we're saying that legs and ankles have gone down 90%. Knee injuries now represent 16% of all skiing injuries, up significantly from the 11% of 20 years ago. So our conclusion here is there have not been decreases in the number of injuries in all categories. And our reasoning for saying that is because we're saying that some types of injuries have decreased the total number. So the total number of like ankle and leg injuries has gone down 90%, but knee injuries now represent 16% of all of the injuries, which 20 years ago it only represented 11% of all of our injuries. Do you think that this is a valid conclusion?
No.
No, why not?
Well, the total number, so I originally thought that, listen, you could have less people skiing, and so if you had more injuries, that that percent might be higher, because out of a total population where less people are skiing, that little bit that had knee injuries might spike.
Yes. So,
but it didn't translate.
So 20 years ago, we're saying that 11% of all of our injuries were knee injuries, right? So let's just change this to 10 just for easy sake. So 10 years ago, if we had 100 injuries, that means that, or let's say we had 1,000 injuries, that means that 10% of that would be what, 100? That would be 100 total, right? 100 knee injuries 20
Okay.
years ago. And today, we only have 500 injuries. And it's 16% of 500, which I don't know what that number is.
Okay.
What's 15 times, or 500 times 0.16 is 80.
Okay.
So do we see how, while the total number percent of knee injuries to the total number increased, did the actual number of knee injuries go up or down?
Went down.
Down. So this is really bad support for the idea that there have not been decreases in the number of injuries in all categories, because technically the knee injuries did go down.
So is this like a 1,000% or 1,000 people?
1,000 injuries total.
Oh, okay, people total.
So if we did, so do you see that? So if we had 1,000 people got injured, it's 20 years ago, 1,000 people got injured.
Mm-hmm.
I changed the 11% just to 10% for easy math. So that means that out of the 11,000 people that got injured, 100 of them were knee injuries, right? If 10% of them were knee injuries.
Okay.
Today, our total number of injuries has gone down to 500. 16% of 500 is 80. So while the total number, or while the percent of injuries that are knee injuries to the whole has gone up from 10 to 16%. The actual number of injuries has gone down because we're basing it off a lower whole number.
Okay.
Do you see that?
Yes.
So we don't get to say our conclusion is that there has not been decreases in the number of all injuries, but we're trying to base that off of the fact that just a percent increased. Anytime we see a percent, we have to ask ourselves, percent of what? Like 16% of what? Like, how do we know? Like, what if there were only 100 injuries today and 16 of them were knee injuries, where before there was like 1,000,000 injuries and 100,000 of them were knee injuries?
Are we bad?
Yeah, yeah. Do you see why that's an issue though?
Yes, because the total number was higher then and it's lower now,
Yes.
but the percentage.
Just because the percentage went up doesn't mean that the total number of knee injuries also went up.
Okay.
And so our answer is going to be D, because it assumes that an increase in the proportion of knee injuries, so we're saying that we have more knee injuries to the whole, rules out a decrease in the actual total number of knee injuries, which is exactly what happened.
Okay. So an increase in the proportion of knee injuries. Am I looking at the 1,000? Because
The increase in proportion, so we went from 10, or technically 11, but 10 to 16. That's what we're, so
Mhm.
there's an increase in the proportion of knee injuries to the total number of,
Okay.
right? So
So the proportion, I'm sorry, go ahead.
we increased from the proportion of 10% knee injuries to the total number of injuries to
16.
15% of total injuries. So we
And then that,
increased in proportion,
okay.
but that doesn't necessarily mean that the number of total injuries actually went up.
Because it went from 100 to 80.
Yes.
Okay. So what is C saying? I thought I was like total number. Okay. So I don't know what to.
Or is the possibility that the number of skiers has increased over the past 20 years?
I was thinking like population, like I don't know.
Um, Even if the number of our issue here is with the percentages, like we don't know what these percentages mean, because that's our only statistic or data here is that 10 is going up to 16. Just because the number of if the skiers actually did increase over the past 20 years, you would still have to know what these are percentages of,
Okay.
what number, to know if there's been an increase or not. I feel like
Okay.
that's the wrong answer though, for sure.